So I hope everybody had a good lunch, and after a good lunch, for a good sleep. Right? So if you are wondering why I'm holding my phone in my hand, I'm not expecting any kind of calls. We are not pregnant, so. So I will skip the my introduction for now, because I don't want to get to sleep. So I will jump into a big question: why developers love this GraphQL API? What is so special about it? So GraphQL is a query language for your API, and so what's the passion about this one? I put up some features of GraphQL, and I try to understand where the love comes from. So is it is easier to write your API? So I guess no, this is not the love, no. So is it because it's strongly typed? No. Is it because it's future-proof? No. I'm sorry to shake my hand all the time. It's from my daughter. He can do it the whole day. Like that, no, no, no. So where is the passion? Why developers don't want to use anything else when they start with GraphQL? And I have a theory that the GraphQL server is more human than any other API server. And I know this is crazy, right? How can an API be human? But I will try to prove it scientifically. So there was a mathematician from UK, you know, the Brexit country. So he had a test. It's called Turing test, and it's like you have two patients. Like one is a human, one is a computer, and you are chatting with them. So like you need to know which, based on your questions, you need to decide. You don't see it. You need to decide which one is a human. So let's find a good question for this test. I'm not sure this is the right question, because answering such question will not help me in any way. So let's find another one. This is much better, but let's narrow it a little bit. So this is a good question for any kind of human to answer. And you will see from this answer, you can decide if you are talking with a human or not. So to prove my theory, let's pretend I'm a REST server and answer this question. I wasn't a REST server before, so bear in mind with me. Might not be the best. I might not be the best REST server, but I will try. So my name is Balin Chuti. I live and work in Bratislava, Slovakia. I have 2 small kids. I work for Ferratum. I am a Drupal 8 tech lead in Ferratum. I have a personal website called Windmill.sk on the domain, and my telephone number is 00421. I'm sorry, probably you don't need my phone number, but I just jumped in the role in the REST server. And the REST server is a bit chatty, you know. They just want to tell you everything about yourself, even you don't ask. So is it really a human behavior, like talking so much, even nobody asked? And actually, this is really painfully human. So this is not a good proof that REST server is less human than the GraphQL server. But what about the second part of the question? What is my presentation about? So what a REST server would would say. And I think the REST server would say something like the presentation ID is 42. So this is not a human answer, right? So the REST server failed on this simple question. The REST server is not human. And the GraphQL, what about the GraphQL server? The GraphQL server is really how I would answer the question. So this is my presentation title, and my name is Balin Chuti. People love to talk with humans, right? And that's where the developers love GraphQL. I'm not sure if I convinced you, but this is my theory. So let's do the next jump. So let's do the GraphQL demo, a small one. Let's build a GraphQL server in Drupal for a real website, what everybody knows in this room. So we are not doing Google or not Facebook. We will do a server, a GraphQL server for WeAreDevelopers.com. I think this event deserves a better API. That's why I'm trying to convince everybody that this is a good example. So let's jump in. But I'm not sure if I can show personal details on stage. You know, this European new thing in legislation or regulation. But as I know, I still have 9 days left, so this is the best timing for the conference. But really, you must be prepared. So if you are building a website now, put your checkboxes online. So that should be the first thing to be compliant. And if you think that you are from US or from the Mars and this doesn't apply to you, you are wrong. Because, you know, there are sneaky Europeans just go to your website and registers, buys some pair of socks. And you know who comes after the sneaky Europeans? The Russian hackers. So when they start selling these precious European passwords like hot cakes or hot schnitzels, and you know that you are in a deep trouble. So, and of course, the customers will complain, you know, that's too much checkboxes. They will just have this click disease. So to ease your pain, just put a user experience improvement there. But you cannot put different colors and different font size. It's against the regulation. So I warned you that this is how you do websites from now on. Okay. So back to the seriousness. So this is the basic query you would like to do when building a conference website. So let's put it to my GraphQL server. All right. Now. Yeah, so we are here. So I have actually migrated data from the current website. It was migrated like 2 weeks ago. So some data is already outdated. But this query, this is the same query as I showed you. Actually, if I run it, I should get all the talks and all the present speakers. Maybe we check if Steve Wozniak, he's there, he's at the bottom. So nobody is missing. It's currently showing the last 10. So I must say that I have 30 lines of custom code. That's all what I did to have this GraphQL server. The Drupal is so powerful that, and it has all the features that I didn't have to write much. And if let's remove my 30 lines of code. I built a simple module to have this pure schema. Settings, yeah. So I will uninstall. You can see that why we are not using Drupal as front end, because sometimes it can be really slow, mostly on administration pages. So I will uninstall these 30 lines of code. And okay, when it finishes, I will run this query. So this is not so nice query, but this is the default implementation of the GraphQL module, how it creates the queries. It uses the Drupal's built-in entity query API. So as I see, it was uninstalled, so let's try to run it. And yeah, we have Steve there, so this is same result, a little bit different data structure, but it's, as you see, it's totally usable. And actually it has all the so let's run it again. It has all the filters, and you can filter by any kind of field. So this is like a complicated field that I'm filtering by a relation to the speaker. And I can show you how you add new content.
Balint?
Yes?
So people are asking if you can zoom in a little bit. It's kind of small on the screen.
Sorry. So I will show you how to add a new speaker. I know if you're familiar with Drupal, this is really basic to you. So I will add a new speaker, Will Smith. I use the same title because every content must have a title in Drupal. And like Man in Black, save. So this is the speaker. And let's add also the presentation. Add content talk. So Will Smith will be presenting here, and he will be presenting the latest invention in the flashlight business. He will talk, right? You can see I have multi-select for stage. As I saw in the data from the WeAreDevelopers website, they have problems with these stage settings. And speaker will be Will Smith. Will Smith. Level will be beginner, and he will be talking right after me. Yes. Save. Let's query. Come on. If he is in the database, sorry. Oh. Yeah, the demo guts are not with me today. Right, he's there. So this is how easy it is in Drupal. And this is actually without any kind of coding. This is all done with clicks. Nothing is added as custom code. And it is strange that we are on a developers conference, and I'm talking about not writing any kind of code. But this is how it is done in Drupal, actually. So Will Smith is there. right, so what is this? What is this Drupal thing? So I will try to say things about Drupal nobody else will tell you in this conference. And let's start with a nice picture. So this guy under the big hat, he open sourced Drupal 17 years ago. And that's for every problem you can encounter in web development. It's already solved in Drupal, at least 2 different ways. And yeah, and this is actually a nice full-screen Drupal logo. It is the official description is friendly alien head. So if you see it by mistake on your website, you don't worry, your site is not hacked. I don't know why people think that if they see this logo, they might think that they are hacked by Russian hackers. So the technology, when you use Drupal as a backend, it's called decoupled or headless, and it also has a nice logo. So this is a headless Drupal. All right. So CMS. When you want to use a CMS as a backend, then you need data structure. Actually, this is a screenshot of Drupal, but if you use your Drupal like this is not suitable for your front end. You need structured data, and it is where Drupal excels at structures data. That's why it is so good. And let's try our second demo. And it's our project. And actually, as you see on the date, it's exactly 1 year ago when we started our project, and it's actually not live. So the birthday party will be postponed. And it is, as it is not live, it is top secret. But as you know, the guy in a black suit will take care of that after the presentation. So I will show you some page edit and a GraphQL query which comes with it. Let's jump again back to our browser. So this is like an old website. We just migrated something here. This is Angular connected to our Drupal backend. And we try to put some content to it, like create a new box of content. So we try to do everything for the content editors to be really easily usable. So I will create a table. So I will add a simple table to the content, and it will be actually totally resizable. So it will work on mobile devices also. So I have this Formula 1 standing prepared, and I should have a nice table. And actually what editors use, they should not use any kind of HTML table tag. They can just upload some kind of Excel file, and I try to save it. And I will add it to this. Let's try to add it to this About Us page. All right. So this is our About Us page. It is Angular, so we cannot do anything in Angular. We need to do it in Drupal. So we should have a content about us. Let's try to edit. As you will see, this is not a CMS like how it should default. So we have many fields. We are full of paragraphs, and we can add something new. Let's try to add the box we just created. Yeah, and it was something about formula. Yeah, add the paragraph there. And actually, currently this is the page loaded without the table. And this is still not saved. Let's save it. Yeah. So, all right. Try to reload the page. All right. So this should be faster than before, right? But we don't have server-side rendering yet. That's the main thing, right? So you can see my table that I just added, and it is nicely responsive. Let's try to look at on mobile device. But as you can see, it's totally wrong data. It should not be like this, but it's a good feature request to have it as we need. So this is how I added the box. And let's look at the query, how it looks like in the query. So if I write a query like this about us, this is a graphical explorer. All that, when you build a graphical server, you should have something like this.
Can you zoom in on that?
Yeah. Okay. I think I miss. It should be about us. Or yeah. About us. Let's try again. So as you see, we have lots of structure. And it's not easy to write it. I just wrote it before the presentation, so a lot of things are missing from the paragraphs and such, but you can see that this is structured table I got from Drupal. So, and if I show you the actual query which are we using, it's much more longer, but at least we can use fragments. So GraphQL has this fragments thing, so you don't need to write again and again the same properties. You can group the properties and use as fragments. Okay, and I would also show you a nice feature I just did. I have a browser plugin. I hope it will work. So I have a quick links to edit the content. It's not normal when you decouple your Drupal from your Angular website to have direct links to edit the content. And actually, I have added these edit links. And if I click on it, I will directly go to my Drupal website. And actually, I don't need any kind of login. So what is this that I'm sure that this is totally secure even on the production website. I will show you it a little bit later. This is the structure I want to talk about a little bit. So we have used the paragraphs as a contrib module. We have used the box as a contrib module. The box was actually created by my colleague. It is really similar as a core block module. It has a bit more features. And yeah, so this is a real structure. So you can put a paragraph, any kind of box as a reusable content. So you can use the same table I created on any kind of page. You don't have to recreate it again on every page. You can put, like we have a text paragraph and we have a grid paragraph. You can structure your data and display on the website. So what about this security? So if you heard about Drupal lately, you know that Drupal is unsecure, or most people think that it's unsecure. And if you was here before the launch, Matteo explained how awesome the security team is. So if you have any kind of issues, if there is any kind of security issue, you can be sure that the security team will notify everybody that when and how should you update your Drupal to keep it secure. But I must say that we don't care about it anymore, how secure Drupal is, because our Drupal is not public. So I'm connecting from a client-side Angular to our Drupal, which is not public, so it's not possible. Something must be public. But GraphQL has this nice feature, so I can put another GraphQL server between my Drupal installation and Angular, and only this GraphQL server needs to be public, so that way I don't expose my Drupal installation to public. And it's only, I don't use any kind of mutations. GraphQL mutation is when you can change something on your data from the client. So we don't have mutations, so that means it's read-only. So there is no way that a hacker could hack our Drupal installation, because he needs to be on the private network or private network. Yeah, and as the whole website is not only the content, we have customers coming and customer registrations. These are all other backend systems, and they also might use GraphQL as an API language, and we also have REST API, so REST can be also part of the query. It's called stitching. It's a GraphQL query stitching, so it can stitch also REST API to your GraphQL schema. And if you are really want to know more about the Drupal security, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I think in this room will be a talk also about GraphQL and Drupal, and I think they are using a public Drupal installation, and they have a nice service how they can make your Drupal installation secure. So if you are interested, you should ask at that presentation. As I see, I still have some time. I can talk a little bit about multilingual. So as we are in Europe, the multilingual thing is almost a must. And Drupal is really excellent at multilingual things. I was just, I was learning Angular, and I just saw that so many things are missing from the Angular multilingual stuff that Drupal have already solved. So I will try to do a little bit of demo also of this. So it would be like a third demo in one presentation. All right. Okay. So in Drupal, you can define which every kind of entity can have any kind of fields, and you can define which fields should be translatable. So for example, if you have like an image, you don't want to change the image source, but you might need to change the alternative text or the image title or a caption, which needs to be translated. So it's really up to you which fields you want to translate. Like even if you are a blog post author, You might decide that you want to translate the author, and in some cases you want to decide you want to have the same author. So I will try to add a new language. Languages. Okay, let's try to add German. As I speak 3 languages, but German is not one of them. So you can see how good at German. Where is it? German. Okay, and let's try to translate. Actually, I'm not sure if it's configured correctly. Let's try our table boxes. It was this Formula 1. Yeah, edit. So as you see, we have many types of boxes we have created for the content editors, and I can switch the language of the. If I do this one, I actually change the language of this content. So as I know, this will change language. That means my GraphQL query should not return it if I'm querying the English version. Is it still? Oh yeah, it's still open. Come on. Yeah. So this is a long About Us page, and I should not. I still have it. Okay, I think I will skip the multilingual stuff. So the GraphQL module has a full support for Drupal multilingual. From the root, you just it doesn't have a language property in the query. If you want to have a German version, it's like normal. If you specify that your language is done with the prefix, you just define the German prefix, and you should get the German version of every component under it, under the node. Node is basic content in Drupal. So I think this was my last slide, and actually I'm ready for questions. Thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you, Balint. We have the very most popular question now in Slido. How did you manage the migration from REST to GraphQL?
From REST to GraphQL, we don't have any kind of migration from REST to GraphQL. We did new GraphQL servers. And if you ask how I did manage the data migration from the WeAreDevelopers website, I did some scraping the data to CSV file, and I used the core migration module to get the data into my Drupal installation.
Maybe to elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah.
Currently migrating, we already got queries sorted.
Oh, I should give you a microphone. And I don't have a handheld here. Hold on, hold that thought. Thank you, Andy. So, elaborating on the question, 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you. So we already got the query set up, that's already working. Yeah. But basically right now our application is using GraphQL for some queries, but all data mutation is still happening in REST. So of course we want to keep the state consistent without having to refetch all data. But from what you said, you're not actually using any mutation yet.
We are using mutations, but not with Drupal. Okay. So we are using Drupal mutations with different backends, and yeah, we are using GraphQL mutations, and we are not mixing REST with GraphQL. I mean, if you want, we are using microservices, and if you want microservices in GraphQL, and then it will be in GraphQL, it will not in REST. But it's schema stitching, as I showed you. It can stitch like we have a process engine which has a REST API, and we just REST API, and we just transform it to GraphQL API with schema stitching.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. I'm sure Balint would be happy to talk about it afterwards as well. Okay. Do you have any concerns about security or DDoS attacks having the queries in the client code? And what about leaking data because of developer error?
All right, that's a tough question. So the DOS, so if too many clients try to use our GraphQL API in a wrong way, that can make our Drupal site like too many requests. But there is possibility of caching. Drupal is really good at caching, so we are planning to have everything in Redis. So the normal customers will never reach Drupal. So that's way we can handle the traffic. And about the user error on exposing the data, so you need to make sure that your GraphQL queries are for public use. So it cannot be that some internal, you expose your GraphQL query to some kind of internal application which can have access to specific data, but you need to make sure that what comes from the customer never reaches. You cannot see the data of other customers, for example. You need to make sure that the GraphQL API doesn't allow it.
So about technology choices, why the Angular framework?
Why Angular? This is a really interesting one. We were looking for a developer, for a React or Angular developer, and we didn't have a choice. And first applicant was a React developer. We hired him, but actually he didn't start it, so he didn't come from the first day. So we're looking more, and the next good developer was Angular developer, and that's how we chose Angular.
That's a pretty pragmatic approach.
Yeah. And since then we had a good training, actually from EF trainers from Vienna. So the whole team is good at can write Angular code. And I heard that this is good for big companies, the Angular thing, because you don't search for solutions. You have the big package, and you just need to learn it, and that's everybody should know the same thing.
And what about telling us why Drupal is a good choice for decoupled solutions like this?
So there are many choices if you are building a GraphQL server. But as Drupal has a long history of building website, it really has structured data you need, and as I showed you, you don't even need to write any kind of custom code, and your structure, you can prepare any kind of structure inside in Drupal.
Plus, you've been doing Drupal for how long now? 12 years, right? So.
Yeah, around 12 years, yes.
That might prejudice your personal choice a little.
Yes, of course. And we had also Drupal developers. We were using Drupal 7 before in the company, so we have lots of Drupal developers, so it was a no-brainer.
Right. So, last question, I think. See, now you voted, and we have two questions that both have 5 upvotes. What do we do about that? So I guess, what about writing this in a framework instead of using a CMS? So, you know, what about choosing Symfony or going the homegrown way?
So Drupal is like a CMS, Symfony CMS. It's like an official CMS for Symfony, and it's ready. And in Symfony, you need to write your CMS to have your content, and this is just ready. So why would I use Symfony if I have a really good choices inside Drupal?
Okay, so if I can put words into your mouth,
yeah.
You didn't feel like necessarily writing another user authentication system and writing a new everything when you can get on with the interesting part of your job?
Yeah. But as I heard, our Drupal is totally private, so the authentication from the customer side is a different question.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. All right, thank you very much, Balint Chuti.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.